Hello, everyone. Again, we're back here. Are we all set? Okay, just counting down the people. Ooh, it's a packed time today. Hello, we are back. Today is our, I don't even know how many, seventh weekly space, I think. Even though Twitter has been completely whack and buggy this week, I had to redo the link around 3 times, and I hope you guys didn't get lost because I'm so sorry. It's not my fault. It's basically Twitter turning our old spaces live, like with a ghost host. I don't know. Again, I am RC here from Kairon Loves, and welcome to our spaces. We are your market maker, liquidity provider, and an advisory firm, guys. Hosting these spaces is for us to kind of like put together industry experts into topics that we are currently also very interested about. Before we start, as a constant reminder for those new here, we strictly impose a no shilling policy, aka please don't try to actively sell any of your tokens. And of course, if you are kind enough, please do give us your support by sharing this space link on your feed so we get more people to join in and get notified. Okay, let's do a really quick roundup of our speakers today. Please keep your intros within 30 seconds. I see some of our friends back here. So we have a big topic today. Let's start with Devomon. Let's start. I see you raising your hand.
Hello, I know I pressed the icon for raising my hand. I'm trying to unraise my hand, and it's not unraising so far. Twitter, I'll blame Twitter as well. We're all blaming Twitter. This buggy. if you can do it, RC, so can I too. First of all, Niz, co-founder at Devomon, regular attendee here, and it's always a pleasure to be here with you all, especially you, RC, and the Kairon team. So, long story short, Devomon is an anime game that crosses blockchain, Web3, and anime specifically. Loads of cool stuff. Game to download, game to play. Give it a try. Follow our socials. Check out if you kind of like cool games, colorful artwork, and all the sort of anime vibe. Then yeah, just jump along, have a look. Loads of stuff going on over the next few weeks. But the first thing I want everyone to do is if there's one thing you take away from what I'm saying is jump on Twitter, follow us, and give our game a go, folks. That's probably what our entire journey is about.
Thank you so much, and happy that you're back here with us, actually. And I love anime, by the way, so that's good. Okay, next one is...
We need to get you on board then, RC. I'll hook you up, man. I'll hook you up.
All right, thank you so much. Let's go with GPT Protocol. Happy to have you guys here.
Hey, nice to be here as well. I'm Peter, founder, CEO of GPT Protocol. We're a layer 2 blockchain built on Polygon CDK, focused on the next generation of autonomous applications that will be running on what we call Web 4, which is defined as the Internet of AI. Our goal is to build a platform that connects open source AI developers to AI miners to help them provide low cost compute to AI developers that may not have the funds necessary to mass proliferate their technology. So by allowing crowdfunding through our DePin platform, we enable the rise of what we call the AI economy, right? So really happy to be here and to really talk about what we've been doing at the intersection of AI and DePin, and all the the challenges that we've seen and how we're overcoming them.
Thank you so much, and happy you guys are here. You're actually been with us for quite a while as our friends. So yeah, finally you're here. Next one, please. Kevin, go right away.
Thank you all. I'm Kevin Unai. I'm founder of RWA.Inc. We are real world asset tokenization and investment ecosystem, and we're so happy to be here today to speak about DePin and all the amazing things in that space.
Thank you so much for the quick intro. Next one is Drive here on my list. Want to go ahead?
Awesome, thanks for that. Hi everyone, AJ here with Drive. So we're built in Polygon blockchain I think this is our first time here, so super excited. So Drive is a decentralized ride-hailing platform, and we are based in Dubai. And yeah, very excited to be here in this space.
Thank you so much. We do have some colleagues in Dubai as well, by the way. So if you want to hook up, let me know. And thank you. Next one is Bionic. I see you on my list. Go ahead.
Hey guys, this is Dom, co-founder of Bionic. We're a next-gen investment DAO. We're launching in the next couple of months. We're deeply focused on 4 key areas of technology that overlap with Web3, XR, DeSci, AI, and advanced infrastructure, which is a lot of that is DePin. So super pleased to be on here. Join our Discord. We've got loads of news coming out about what's coming up on our side. We've built some really world-class deal flow networks and got some amazing projects coming up on our platform to invest in.
Amazing. Nice to know that. Thank you so much. And PKT, you're up.
Hey, how you doing? Thanks so much for including us. So PKT is a DePin project. It's a layer 1 proof of work, the first one for bandwidth. And what we've built is a sovereign piece of the internet that is powered by the people. And you can build anything you want in this ecosystem, and your URL is your payment address. It's supported by people all over the world that believe in internet sovereignty, and that big tech and governments should not control the internet.
Interesting. Thank you. Actually, might want to message you after this call, actually. So, thank you for joining us. Next one is Dom.
Hi there. I'm the department lead at Rowan Energy. We are building the first granular, intelligent, decentralized smart grid. A lot of buzzwords there, but first decentralized smart grid in the UK. And we're working with some UK government think tanks to kind of build out this infrastructure and the legislation behind it. And essentially it designs a network where anyone, any independent supplier of energy can become their own power plant, their own power company. And they can trade their energy in a decentralized way with their local community, achieving lower end costs for conscious consumers and providing local suppliers of energy, these decentralized independent suppliers. It gives them a business model that they can use to kind of encourage this energy independence that the market is already diverging to. I think it's one of the only markets in the world where it's kind of decentralizing itself, and people are taking more control over their energy, and they are kind of understanding their own habits, and there'll be a new era of smart homes coming out with smart energy usage and things like that. And blockchain is the key to it all. And so that is what we are doing right now.
Thank you so much. This topic is very, very on point for what you guys want to build. So thank you for joining. Next one is Chris.
Hey guys, my name is Chris. I'm from VDAO, and we're a community of ecosystem builders interested in regenerative living. And we're really interested in DePin because we like building at the intersection of the physical and the digital. And we believe that DePins are going to be a huge part of a regenerative future.
Thank you so much. Yeah, totally on topic as well. And thanks for joining us also. Next one and last. Oh, not the last. Ruby, go ahead.
Hello, everybody. I'm happy to be here. I'm Ruby. I'm the co-founder and lead engineer of XP.NETWORK. We're an NFT multi-chain bridge, currently connected to over 25 different blockchains. We've integrated around 30 different wallets to ensure a seamless user experience. We also have around 5 live mainnet products. Thank you for having me. Happy to be here.
Ooh, 5, a lot. Thank you so much for joining us. Must be a busy schedule for you. Next one and the last, Investor Brand, go ahead.
Hi. Yeah, thanks for having me once again. So I'm Bren. I do ecosystem growth for XP.NETWORK. It's a decentralized data cloud. So we provide the everything you need to decentralize your data infrastructure through the use of clusters. So you can customize it to your needs.
All right. Thank you so much, all of you guys here, for joining me today. Just a really quick heads up. All the information that you got here, disclaimer, is of course our personal info and not a financial advice. Okay. To start, for those who are not familiar with it, DePin actually means decentralized physical infrastructure, like projects building the next, I would say, like T-Mobile, Google Stadia, or AWS, but making it decentralized, basically. Some of the known ones, I would say, would be Helium Network, Filecoin, Aether, and others. So, in that sense, my first question is, for those of you guys, how long do you think it will take for these DePin projects to have a significant market share against their centralized counterparts?
I can go ahead and answer that.
Go ahead, please.
I think that, post Bitcoin ETF, we're going to start to see a lot more institutional capital pour into the space. Like I said, on some previous spaces that, I don't think BlackRock would, and any of these other large institutions would, give exposure to their clients if they didn't see the next maturation cycle of Web3 happening, and especially as we start to build infrastructure, right? So actually being able to use the technology the way that it's supposed to be used, right? Like the cloud. So I think if we, it's like kind of like what the cloud did with the Web2. So if we kind of look at history, it probably took, a good, 5 years, right, in order for the cloud to really proliferate almost every single industry. But I think with the incentivization network of, Web3 and that ownership capability and the tokenization of everything, especially with real world assets, I think it might become faster, right? And, when we look at the convergence of Moore's law, which is really the rate of the semiconductor being a lot smaller, and then also the convergence of that with Metcalfe's law, we can see that it accelerates, right? Like the early internet took like a few decades to get to Web 1, and then Web 1 to Web 2 was maybe like 20 years, right? Web 2 to mobile was like 5 years. So I think it's going to be significantly faster and faster, especially as AI starts to move on to the ecosystem, right? AI is a force multiplier of a lot of different things that it layers on top of. And I think we could probably see in the next 1 or 2 years, there will be like the next Google or Facebook in what I call Web 4, right? Which is a more organized internet. The pendulum swings between experimental, which I think is like Web3 is very experimental with cryptocurrency, NFTs, and so forth, but the pendulum will start to swing towards a more organized internet. Similar to how Web 1 was kind of experimental, and then Web 2 was more organized. It became like more of a behemoth. So I think once we start to get more adoption, I think it's going to be, with enterprises, I think it's going to start to proliferate a lot faster. That's why we chose, Polygon's technology, because it already has penetrated the enterprise and enterprise use cases. So, I really see it proliferating over the next 1 or 2 years.
Make absolute sense. Investor Brand, do you have anything to say about that?
Yeah, I think it will probably take a bit longer. It seems like in general with technology, we have the habit to sell the dream. Then we, especially when it comes to investing, everybody overinvests. Then we come back to reality, and then we realize that it's a bit more complex and a bit more challenges than we had hoped. And then usually it takes another couple of years before it really rolls out. I agree that things are definitely going faster in general, and probably some areas will move faster than others. But I think we have to be realistic. Big companies and enterprise companies, they're not just going to replace AWS or their current infrastructure with decentralized one without the decentralized infrastructure really proving that they can handle the volume, that they can be secure, that they can be as reliable and even more reliable than what they currently have. And that is something that you don't test in 1 year time, right? It probably takes, first of all, getting those contracts will take a year at the minimum to get to that point. And then they will start evaluating, then they'll start looking at if it really is up to the task. And then you'll probably have the situation where companies are waiting for each other to make that first move. So I really hope that we see big moves in the next 2 years, but I think 4 years plus will probably be more realistic.
Chris, go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting question, and I think the point about market share, it kind of frames the DePin narrative around like market dynamics. But when I think about DePin, and that's important, I don't want to discount that, but when I think about DePin, I think also about the needs of people in society and how those needs will change as we face volatility. And for those that are not familiar, there's the meta crisis thesis suggests that volatility is only going to increase. And if that's the case, if we are heading into an age of increasing volatility, the existing legacy systems and networks that are built around centralized infrastructure are going to really struggle to sustain themselves within that paradigm. So that shift is likely to be a catalyst for the emergence of DePins, because ultimately the decentralized models are more anti-fragile and will outcompete centralized infrastructure within that paradigm. So I wouldn't be able to put a kind of time frame on that, but I think it looks like that's the direction of travel that we're going in. So I expect to see more and more DePins emerge and eventually outcompete centralized alternatives.
PKT, and thank you for that, Chris. PKT, go ahead.
Yeah, I think that, well, first of all, every industry is different, right? So DePin is pretty broad term, anything that's basically physical. So I think it's all kind of relative based on the industry, whether you're talking about cloud or talking about, power, energy or power, things like that. But I do believe that the acceleration of decentralized infrastructure will move quicker when these different projects figure out how to collaborate and build bridges, as opposed to trying to think they can take on the entire world themselves. And so I think that creating partnerships and collaborations, even for our project with PKT, we're not going to be the one project that changes the entire internet. And even the way the internet works currently, there's many different carriers, and you have AT&T, you have Comcast, you have Verizon, you have all these different big companies that are all kind of piggybacking off each other to be able to connect the world. And so creating interoperability and collaboration between decentralized projects is going to accelerate that. And I think in this modern world, that becomes easier and easier to do. And I think that that's where you'll see the real.
I totally agree on that. But as Chris kind of said, people have needs, right? But what actually are those needs, and are those needs demanding enough to actually warrant them to switch? Like, we are very used and comfortable using these, legacy platforms, these big techs. Like, what will make you want to change to completely new tech when the old one is pretty much, integrated almost into our daily lives?
Well, they said that about the fax machine as well. And they're like, why would I need email when I have a fax machine? So Exactly. It just has to be a better experience.
And what more? Like, what else is so demanding that people would want to switch to decentralized version of everything? What are we seeing is the trend right now for those people already using this decentralized solutions? GPT protocol, you're raising your hand. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think AI is really what a lot of enterprises and even small companies want because, from what our research has shown is that these companies, they don't want to put all of their data inside of like ChatGPT, right? They want to have some sort of sovereignty within their data, and then the enterprise model for selling that data to each other is going to need some sort of tokenization, right, and verification. So that's why we chose Polygon CDK because they just came out with a technology called Validiums that allows for off-chain data processing using ZK proofs, and doing that at a really high throughput, high compute capacity, right? So as I look at every organization adopting AI, it's not just Web3 that's going to have autonomous organizations. Every organization is going to start to become an autonomous organization. And the race to AI, and being first in your industry to be able to train up your own AI data set on your own, DePin network, right? Where it's a hybrid of private and public information. I think that's really going to, drive that exponential growth because it's highly competitive in business, and being able to even license out your technology, your AI technology that you trained up using this collective data set is going to be really the next oil that's going to happen, that everybody's going to want to run on, similar to how, gas powers all gasoline, cars today, right? All of this different infrastructure. So I think it's going to happen really fast. And I really think that, companies should be prepared for it.
I agree. I also have a question on that follow up later. Investor Brand, go ahead.
Yes, sorry, can you repeat the question one more time?
Basically, see what will make people move into the decentralized version of what is already working for us at this day.
Yeah, I wanted to jump on indeed what the previous speaker said. I do think that there is a moment where you have to say, okay, technology can be better, but it should be more than just being decentralized, right? Because if we look at ourselves, at the consumer, we all thought that we felt that privacy was so important, and we were all so angry when the story of that Snowden brought out. But 2 weeks after, we were all still clicking agree and not reading anything and ignoring all the cookies. So there is something to it. Yes, we find certain values very important because we were taught to find them very important. But sometimes convenience wins. So I would not underestimate the power of convenience and the power of what people know. And that's again why I believe it might take a bit longer than we hope to make this evolution. And for some integrations, it has to be more than just being decentralized, I think.
Yeah, because right now we're seeing like the main point or the switch happening basically is when people get really fed up with their privacy issues, right? So I think that's kind of like one of the biggest, I would say, problem that DePin is kind of solving right now. And as PKT mentioned a while ago about partnerships. Because we do see that the biggest issue right now is people are building kind of like separately. I see like, Dom is building on his own, in terms of, electricity and energy. I see, AI being built separately, and we see like, Akash, for example, Akash, you need to run your server, but you need Filecoin for kind of like the storage, while meanwhile, AWS is basically has all of this and probably more in one place. So how do you think we can kind of build this all together as one kind of like an ecosystem versus like building it separately and then, having to bridge it one by one and then connect it to another network and all of that stuff? I would want to go for Investor Brand, but I see Bionic raising his hand first time. So let's go for Bionic first.
Yeah, I think ease of use is clearly going to trump a lot of things, and I think certainly in the current environment, it's going to trump privacy a lot of the time, certainly from a company's perspective. I think a lot of the stuff that we see lacking well, not so much lacking is if you look at something like AWS, they make it super easy because they, as a centralized organization, they've got the ability to coordinate around connecting sales and customer onboarding with developer tooling. And I think that aspect of DePin is not there yet, and I think that's going to take some time. We've got to make it easy for developers to onboard. We've got to provide them with the tooling to onboard in easy ways, in a manner that sort of demonstrates, what the advantages are. And I think to really get traction, that's kind of where the focus needs to be, which in a decentralized manner is kind of challenging sometimes.
I agree. Let's go for PKT. Do you have a response for that?
Yeah, I think that the way the centralized businesses work is the correct way for the industry to work. Because if you think about AWS, or you think about Google, right? When YouTube came onto the scene, Google just bought YouTube. They didn't build YouTube from scratch, and then they needed AdSense, and they bought another company that did AdSense, and they Frankensteined all these different companies that were doing singular things, and they turned it into Google. And now that's Google that we know, and it's a monster of a company. That's the way that decentralized projects can still work, I don't need to do storage when, Filecoin is doing storage, I don't need to go and build that. And what's cool about the way that the crypto industry works is, similar to the way that, centralized companies work, is Google would go buy another company and they would own the stock in that company, and they would do a stock swap and all that stuff. And you can do that with crypto because most of these projects have a coin or a token that you can either exchange or purchase, and have ownership in the success of those projects that you're collaborating with. And so as you're driving your community to their community by owning their coins or owning basically stock in their companies, that you're able to benefit from the success of driving your community to theirs. And I think when communities really start collaborating and driving people to each other and owning, each other's crypto and being able to build a portfolio of partnership companies and projects, then that's where this stuff really takes off. And I think that people are very focused on this idea that's like, oh, this is my piece of the project and I need to own it all. But when we start getting into that collaborative nature and really get into the decentralized mentality of building, that's when this thing will really take off. And the coin element of it, and the fact that you can publicly trade, purchase, which you can't necessarily do with a lot of these centralized companies unless they're public, makes it so that is really easy to do. So I encourage a lot of those partnerships and people to collaborate more frequently.
I totally agree. Investor friend, go ahead.
Yeah, I think the fact that the market is still so fragmented shows that we're still, of course, in the early stages, and it just will take some time to put all the pieces together to see what tech really works and what was just a very nice promise and maybe not realistic to achieve. So I think those pieces of the puzzle, they will fall together. But there is one element I think we should also not forget that that the world of today is used to. And that is, you want to have somebody to point to, and you want to have somebody responsible when shit hits the fan. And that's a different concept when you have a decentralized solution. There is nobody to point to. There's nobody to sue. And that probably for enterprises is very uncomfortable. And in that same line, we also have to keep in mind that for a lot of things when it comes to data and sort and stuff like that, there are certain industry standards, there's legislation and requirements, and we also have to keep those things in mind. It's not just about the tech, right? So again, I think DePin is exciting. That's of course also why we are in that business. and I'm really looking forward to seeing the industry evolve. But I think we're still very early.
GPT protocol. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of chime in and say that true decentralization 100% is like a pipe dream, right? It's kind of like saying like communism works, but it clearly didn't, right? Capitalism works. And for the way I look at it is, even a lot of like Ethereum miners, validators and everything, they use AWS, right? So it's, but for us, what we want to do, especially with our tokenomics, is to incentivize and include everybody into the process of being able to make money from, like big data, big tech, right? So I think that, providing the right tokenomics infrastructure, and incentivization layer to allow more people to, so investors don't, investors can actually invest into helping mine the token, right, to provide low cost compute power for the, AI developers. And I think it's just going to make it even bigger. So it's not just, for us, we pioneered this, solution called proof of resources, right? So it takes into account, how much GPU, power you're going to provide, how many GPUs you're running on your system to process the AI data tasks on a grid computing system, right? And what it does is you don't necessarily have to be in a garage, with a computer or a mining rig to do all this. You can use AWS, you could use RunPod, you could use a lot of different aspects of it, right? But it's just more expensive to do so. So if you run it yourself, it's going to be low cost. The driving factor is that inclusivity into being able to make big tech money without working for big tech.
Yeah, maybe can I quickly jump on that, because that has become a challenge, right? We're also proud that we have decentralized networks, and like you said, you'll be surprised how many people are running their nodes on AWS. So we're still putting everything in the hands of big tech. So hopefully, DePin can solve that challenge in one go. But yeah, you just can't stop people from using AWS, and they are competitive because they have these big data centers, they have these economies of scale at work. So that is also something that plays in my mind as to how far can we go, right?
Because it needs to be, deep in, from my point of view, it needs to make sense to have the technology being used in that particular industry. So, for example, DePin may not make sense where the industry or the tech needs to be of a centralized nature or needs to be of a confined nature. The platform-based solutions, which I think was being discussed earlier, for me, that they do make sense. But when you're offering, projects working together to offer a platform solution, AWS type solution or, the Google type scenario we talked about earlier, I think there's a lot of interoperability barriers that we need to overcome within the decentralized space before we're kind of there, because at this point in time, there's too many sort of friction points to allow that. But that being said, there are definitely industries where the use of decentralized technology makes complete sense, makes it more convenient, makes it more efficient. So, it really depends on what you're using it and where you're using it. But, there is a use case, absolutely.
GPT, go ahead. And thanks, Stephen.
Yeah, and I think that, with something like AI, where there's really no infrastructure for it, right? If AI is the new electricity, then blockchain is really the new power lines. Tokenization is really the new power lines, right? So we have a really fresh new sector that we can provide infrastructure for. So that's why we're really focused on AI, because we can be the driving force behind that infrastructure, and that's going to allow us to control it, the people to control AI, not governments, not big tech, and so forth. So I think if we do interoperate, so we do bridge with other networks, and then also I built on Polygon CDK, also because they're coming out with something called the AG layer, which unifies liquidity across all of the different L2s on their platform using atomic swap, so you don't need to bridge back and forth. So I really think that there is going to be a solution out there for, companies of all sizes, right? And what we want to do, with GPT protocol, we have the ability to spin up side chains like Tau has subnets, right? So that other companies can build off of our side chain, but also keep sovereignty onto their own platform as well.
So, PKT, go ahead.
Yeah, I think that it's really a shift of consciousness into this decentralized mentality, and that's going to get real adoption. And people don't use AWS because they love Amazon and they want to give more money to Jeff Bezos. They use it because it's a great user experience. And so when you can create a good user experience, that's when you're going to get real adoption. And that's when things get decentralized, and also when it's more affordable. And on top of it, you can actually make money. And so creating that incentive layer is how you really get wind in your sails and get mass adoption. So the crypto industry as a whole, talks so much about protocols and, blockchain and layer 1, layer 2, proof of work, things that just literally make people's heads explode. And so when we can start focusing on user experience and usability of these resources, and they're cheaper and a better experience, then there's no reason not to go and use it. AWS, a lot of the world is using it, and that's been one of Packet's real big focus, is to be able to say, hey, if you're a decentralized project and you're built on AWS, then technically you're not a decentralized project, because AWS can just literally shut your business down whenever they want, and I've seen it done many times. And so that's not a good user experience for people, where you're going to go build a business, and we're not all criminals and drug dealers that are, being nefarious. People are building real businesses that are built on these centralized infrastructure that doesn't serve the future of the world. And the future of the world is crypto and blockchain, and that kind of adoption. So creating a environment where people with great ideas and that push the world forward can build becomes very powerful. And AWS is not creating that environment. They're just the giant that everyone just goes to because, hey, where else are you going to go? And so breaking up those monopolies by taking these resources that are out there in the world. They are out there, and most of them are sitting dormant or looking for a marketplace to be able to be used. And if you can put those to work, create an incentive mechanism like Packet does, then now those resources are being used, and an environment to nurture the future of development for technology can flourish in these different environments.
Yeah, I agree also, and with what you said, like we can actually learn something from all of these already pre-existing solutions and how they're able to actually go into mass adoption. Maybe we can actually, instead of always moving forward and not looking back, we can kind of look back and see what did they do to be who they are now. And maybe that's something we can also do ourselves in a way. And then that's something I also kind of agree with GPT protocol, right? It's AI is completely for us kind of new, but it also, solves some problems. But then the reason it really went up really fast is because when, ChatGPT was released, it was mostly free. And that most of these services, they were also initially offered for free. And when people see the benefits of it and see that it's actually working, it's when they actually try to use it. But the common things that I actually see in terms of why people feel, uncomfortable using decentralized is because of the tech. Because it's too much for them. It feels like, let's say my grandma and I introduce all of these things to her, she's gonna be like, what are you talking about, man? What is layer 1? What is layer 2? I'm too old for this. And even my parents, they're probably gonna say that, right? So us within Web3, how do you think we can make it easier for them? How can we kind of work together to make these people use this solution that we're offering them, which we know is going to be a huge help for them, but they don't know that yet, right? So is there anything we can learn from our previous ones or previous ancestors and how they became who they are today? And I think that's kind of something I would want to hear from you guys. Dom, sorry, you're raising your hand. Go ahead.
Yeah, I
Sorry
was
for
going
that.
to touch on one of the previous points, and there's like an analogy I like to use when I talk about this sometimes. And something a bit different about our company is that we were sucked into Web3, rather than thinking we want to create a Web3 business, and then what kind of industry does that align with? And this is the shift we're seeing. Okay, I think we need to kind of think about the way we approach our individual projects and businesses. I think going into it thinking, okay, I want to create a Web3 business, and how the hell do I do that in what industry? It should come from a idea or a concept like, I want to allow people to sell energy P2P. How do I do that? And we just got sucked into DePin naturally, because this is the only way you can make this possible. Blockchain is the only way you can make this possible. It's like a fundamental necessity. And like AI, decentralizing AI, it's a necessity. Blockchain is a necessity. And we're taking like the top down approach, and that's how we find the real solutions. It's where someone has an idea and it ends up being, okay, I need to use blockchain. You know, the solution for my idea is blockchain, rather than focusing on the blockchain and thinking, okay, what do I apply this to now? Because, you know, bottom up is how we've been acting the last few years. And this is why adoption hasn't come as fast as we wanted. But now I think we're seeing a real expansiveness where, you know, people from lots of different industries, lots of different companies, they're trying to achieve more open and, I'd say, forward-thinking ideas and concepts. And they're starting to realize that actually DePin is needed, blockchain is needed, the immutability of the data is needed for assurance purposes, for example. Or, you know, if I'm running a complex supply chain, I need blockchain for my traceability. You know, I need the product, I need it. And there's few sectors coming out, you know, that they're quite, they're popping up now, where you can kind of look at it and you can look at what's happening, kind of the issues within it, and you can say quite confidently, you know, blockchain solves a lot of these problems. And that's where DePin is actually coming in. And I think it'll start to see mainstream adoption in specific sectors rather than broadly. I'd say, you know, you'll maybe have one or two sectors that really start booming because of the cost savings or efficiency. And, you know, everything kind of narrows down focus into what really works, rather than this super broad experimentation phase that we have, where we're just trying to find out what goes where. But yeah, I think in terms of previous counterparts, I like to talk about helium a lot, because I did study helium a lot before we kind of approached the DePin side. And they've had a lot of issues in the past. They had a significant kind of swept under the rug problem called POC hacking, where people actually discovered a way to, you know, receive their hardware and earn rewards without contributing anything to the network. And it's kind of swept under the rug. You know, it's very hard to fix hardware once it's out there. Once these vulnerabilities are out there in a network, they can be gamed by smart individuals, and, you know, this is another big challenge of hardware. So, but all these different problems we learn from, we build on them, and we start to perfect our craft and perfect our networks in the way they're architectured, in the way we make sure the systems can't be gamed, that there's sufficient competition, and things like that. And it's all because of the mistakes of the past. And, you know, we thank them for, you know, the pioneers for going out and trying this, but it just allows us builders to learn from these mistakes and push forward.
I totally agree. Chris, go ahead before I give my comment.
Yeah, I really agree with what Dom was saying there about like leading with the needs out there, rather than trying to kind of shoehorn blockchain into anything just to get Web3 in there, just to get blockchain in the product. There has to be a real reason to have it there. But I wanted to pick up on this point that PKT raised earlier, which was about this shift in consciousness. I think that was what he was talking about, and I think I see that as crucial as well, and I see it in terms of a paradigm shift into a more regenerative paradigm is what I foresee in the future. And in terms of what may kind of be the catalyst for that, I like to think back to the early days of the cryptocurrency industry and Bitcoin in particular, that was born out of volatility in the financial sector, the crash, global financial crash. And the solution that was offered there was self-sovereignty. That was the solution to volatility. Self-sovereignty within a network that's anti-fragile. And that solution was kind of, it was taken up by millions of people around the world because they could see the value in being your own bank. But that same principle can be applied to so many different areas. And one of the things we're really interested in is, like, how do you apply that to water systems? How do you apply that to energy systems, to shelter systems? And it's interesting because there are a lot of people out there in the world who have nothing to do with crypto that have been working on this stuff for years outside of the crypto bubble and trying to develop self-sovereignty within their lives. And what we see in the future is a kind of coming together of those minds with the minds in the tech industry to develop products that actually add value to people's lives in the same way that being your own bank right now can add value to your lives. People have got that narrative. Be your own bank. It's a meme. It's out there. People love it. That can be applied to a lot of different areas, and I think that will drive a lot of adoption in the DePin space in years to come.
TPT protocol, go ahead.
Yeah, and I kind of like what you're saying about be your own bank. I think everyone's going to want to be their own AI, right? Like, if you're just one AI, if we're a society controlled by one draconian AI, right, super overarching AI, that's not going to be good. I think democratization of it is going to be really important. And I also want to touch back on what Dom was saying about the need for blockchain. I've been in the AI space for quite some time now, right? And I needed to use the blockchain because I was locked into, Amazon. I signed a commercial partnership with Amazon, Shopify, et cetera, for my voice commerce platform. And the thing is, I could never be bigger than Amazon, right? And I think, and the payments landscape was very fragmented. If I wanted to order something on, Alexa, I had to use Amazon Pay, Google, I had to use GPay, car companies were coming to us to say, we want your voice technology for ordering food. And I'm like, I don't know what, currency we should use, right? So we then started to, move towards Web3. And to be totally honest, I wish I didn't have to apply the blockchain because it's overkill for everything, right? But at the end of the day, it's necessary, right? And, it adds a level of complexity, but I think, it also is really important for everyone to have ownership of, their AI, right? And for people to feel good about with AI proliferating, right? And being able to share data and share collective intelligence, right? I think that's going to really bring about, I hate to say the term AGI, but it could potentially bring about AGI.
Thank you so much. PKT, you're raising your hand.
Yeah, I totally agree with what Dom was saying about, the why of why do we need blockchain and not just, let's apply blockchain because it's a buzzword to raise a bunch of money. I've started multiple businesses that have dealt with the inefficiencies of centralized infrastructure. I have a pet CBD company that CBD is federally legal in the United States, but our payment processor shut us down right as we were starting to process a lot of money. And then, it was built on Shopify, and Shopify still, they won't let you use Stripe, but even if you use any processor, they're still taking 1% of your money. And then you go over to PayPal, who's now taking 5% of your money, but they want a 90-day rolling reserve to hold on to your cash. And as a small business, that's crippling. At one point, they had over $150,000 worth of our money just held up for 90 days. I was selling miners for Packet. The payment processor says they don't do crypto. We're like, no, we're selling miners. This is computer software. They're like, well, there's crypto elements, so you're shut down. Now you're going to a payment processor that's going to charge 5%, or go to PayPal with a rolling reserve. And so those things are just crippling for businesses. And so, being able to have a network where you can build stuff, my career started in the film business where we were making movies, or we still are making movies for, the big studios. And there's just no transparency in everyone's kind of probably heard of creative accounting through the entertainment business, and having this transparency on an immutable ledger, using blockchain technology is powerful. And if you want to go compete with the, Amazons and the Netflixes, then, you need to have billions of dollars to be able to compete with them, and they have the audience. And so how do you go and compete with these giants? And the way that you do it is you create an incentivized network that everyone is incentivized to show up on. And when you have coins in a wallet, then you need things to spend it on. And so that becomes this engine to be able to reinvent the way content is distributed between creators and consumers, and cutting out all the middle people. And I think blockchain really cuts out the middle people, so you don't have all these people that are trying to eat off of one source, but you're decentralizing that in a way that people are incentivized to participate in this ecosystem. And that becomes very powerful when you have many people doing small amounts of work, being incentivized to do it, and being able to grow a network exponentially, far faster than you'd be able to do if you were just throwing money at the problem.
Yeah, go ahead, Investor Brent, and thank you for that, PhD.
Yeah, I think like Packet said, I think with blockchain we have the opportunity to, if well designed, and probably we need a few more iterations, we will be better able to align interest across all shareholders, which is now indeed has been proven. When things grow, they usually get skewed. Lack of transparency doesn't help. Too many people in the middle doesn't help. So yeah, hopefully that is the efficiency that DePin will bring to many industries.
Yeah, totally agree. So just kind of like to sum it up, I think, based on what everyone said, we can agree that DePin does solve a problem, and that this is a technology that we all need. As as Chris and then Dom and mentioned, it has started with, just a simple problem of being able to have a decentralized way to do financial transactions, and into AI, as GPT said, and then as DePin mentioned, we have many other tech out there that's already existing. And the same hurdle that we're kind of seeing right now is kind of like recentering our focus from these projects to actually not be sucked into being just, being part of Web3, and actually recenter it to try and solve a user's problem and make it easier for them to be more adaptable for a regular user. And I think that is when we will obviously, hopefully reach mass adoption pretty soon. And normally that takes years and years probably. And I sound like I'm lecturing people here, but I hope it does happen earlier, because this is a demand that is kind of like important for us, especially for those in the, as hacks become more current and everything is just within AWS and everything like that, and it's easier for you to get access into those clouds. I think it's easier for us to be more secured within the blockchain at this point, and see everything within this space. With that said, is there anyone else who wants to say their last words before I kind of like wrap this discussion up?
I would just say, if anybody's interested in PKT, join our Discord and
Okay. Yay. You kind of drop off there, sir.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I was just saying, join the Discord, and jump in, get involved, and see how you can participate and be a part of the growing community. And yeah, you can get involved over at MEXC as well. So, thanks for having me.
All right. For all of those listeners out there, thank you as well for joining us today. And of course, please everyone follow all of these amazing speakers right now. They're really good projects. I am going to personally look into them one by one. Some of them we've already known and already working with. And so please, if you guys have time, let's support the community. Let's make DePin happen, guys. The whole point of this discussion is to make it work. So please follow them. Try to read about their projects. Try to see how you can support to make things work for each one of us. We are not in competition here, as the discussion went. We are all in this space to build something together, and I hope we can, follow each other and make something as one versus, one tech over the other. And in that sense, guys, I hope we see you again in the future spaces. And we do have again a space next week, which is the upside and downside of RWAs. We love RWAs. We're working on a lot of projects under RWA, so we would love for you guys to join that one. You can check that link on the thread on this link on this space. And again, thank you guys for joining me. We are a little bit 1 minute over time, but happy to have you here, and hopefully you guys have a great day ahead. Thank you guys.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Have a great day.
Thank
Thanks
you.
everyone. Goodbye.
Cheers, guys.
Bye.
Cheers, guys. Bye.
Bye.